one of many rocks that I went to Michigan to prospect copper. There's a place in the Upper Peninsula called the Keweenaw Peninsula that was a very prominent copper mining area for probably 100 years in the late 1800s.
Hello, welcome back to this week's episode of the TF Cast.
Hey, Grum here. It is the 6th today.
And I'm your host, Jacob Bases. Today we are continuing our series on shining some light on different makers at the makerspace and talking about what's going on out there and their work. And we have Caleb Stoner, who is a maker of all sorts and artists. Caleb, if you just, how about you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what kind of projects you have going?
Sure. I'm a longtime member and shop lead at the Mankato Makerspace. I run the lapidary shop there, which is lapidary is grinding rocks, cutting rocks, stuff like that. I also do blacksmithing and ceramics and a few other little niches, woodworking, jewelry too. Yeah, it's kind of goof around there and make all kinds of stuff, tinker, art.
Yeah, you make a lot of you make a lot of the things that I've seen just recently here, even that kind of like cross between like really functional objects and then also have like a bit of creative flair. Like there's like a wandering robot that had some like it was like on a little.
That's part of a rascal, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Somebody had a jazzy select. It was the select version.
Ooh.
And they're like, "Hey, do you want this?" I'm like, "Yeah." Or they're asked if the makerspace wanted it. Like, heck yeah. And they had like the old the gel batteries, and they're all bulged out or whatever. So me and Jeremy went over to Napa and grabbed some more 12-volt batteries and hooked them up. Took the chair off, and then I put like a pipe on a piece of wood, and set it in a little hole slot. And now I'd like take it and like put anvils and stuff on it and haul them outside, or just so it's not like this little like pallet jack thing.
I love
Otherwise, we can race around with it or like sit on it, turn the speed all the way up, and just zoom around the shop. Yeah, I don't really have like a direction with all my creations. It's just kind of like I'm not like specifically a painter or an artist or a tinker or whatever. It's like all of those things and like none of them. It's whatever's cool, whatever's fun, whatever's goofy.
Yeah, what's your primary motivation when you get the urge to start one of these projects? Like you have some pretty like thinking about like the auto anvil kind of thing.
Yeah,
I got to see that when I was in the makerspace the other day, and like it just seems like quite the undertaking. Like what was your idea behind making that? And
the power hammer is the
Yeah.
auto anvil. Oh, okay. I was like auto anvil.
yeah, it's the opposite way. It's the auto hammer.
The anvil goes up against the hammer. Well, I don't know if I said or not. I do a lot of blacksmithing, and as you kind of go along that process, you want to make bigger and bigger things and crazier whatever's. And it's a tough process. Like, I have all this steel lying around. It varies from leaf springs, from like trucks, cars, wagons. Sometimes I'll have big bolts that are just high carbon steel. And that steel is really, really tough, and it requires a lot to move. And having something like that power hammer, it does a lot of that work for you. Something that it would take me probably 3 hours, and after that, I'd just be done for the day. It would take that thing like 15 minutes just to
Sure. When you
draw
say
that out.
move, you mean like move the shape of the steel into something workable.
Yeah, sorry.
So you're saying that like an object like that just makes your work much more efficient.
Yeah, so I've been wanting to make swords and stuff and this and that, and I have all this crazy steel. And I can do that by hand, but it's a lot. So having a machine that can do the grunt, or not the grunt work, but the majority of the heavy
labor.
Because I made a pickaxe last year.
How long does one of those projects take? Walk someone through the process of creating something like a practical knife or a
Oh,
pickaxe. If that's a story you're excited to share, I'd love to hear more about that.
it all depends on if it's for me or if it's for you.
Yeah.
Not all depends, but there's varying aspects of it. But basically, it depends on what the material is beforehand.
Yeah.
I can go to the USA Knife Maker place down, not on Third Avenue. I forget. It's towards the Makerspace in that end of town.
Cool.
And I can buy like knife blanks, just like steel, or not knife blanks, but kind of like knife or bar stock, and cut something
Sure, so
out
it's like a thick.
and not really have to do any forging. Or I can take an object that's
Is that
totally
like
unlike.
a steel or
Yeah, they sell like
iron?
yeah, they sell strips of steel like 1/4 inch or 3/8 depending on what you want.
Yeah.
And I can literally take like that and then draw a knife shape on it, cut it out, grind it, and not do like any forging. And there's nothing wrong with that. But otherwise, you can take something that's totally not knife shaped at all, a big bolt, and have to hammer it flat, and then like hammer the shape into it, and then hammer this and that. From there, you can either kind of hammer bevels into it, which is kind of the
It's like pin.
the slope
Oh.
that this comes down, or you can just have like a flat shape and then grind these in.
Yeah.
Let's leave this on the
And
table
that
for
changes
real quick.
the quality of the knife as well, right? It changes like the.
Not necessarily. By hammering in the bevels, it's just a different way to do it versus grinding them in. Ultimately, the finished result is, a blade that has a handle, that has an edge, that has, stability, strength, and after you have shaped it, you can go back and heat treat it.
Triple Falls is a media and event production company based in southern Minnesota. We specialize in multicam live streaming and sound and lighting for event productions. Contact us today to learn more or subscribe online to join our newsletter and stay up to date about events and things going on in the area. Thanks for tuning in. Back to your show.
Hey, we're back. We had a little reframing, and we are here talking to Caleb. And right before that, we were talking about foraging from scratch and making your own materials. If you want to continue from there, Caleb.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of farm to table, so to speak. From scratch, from nature, from nothing. I really enjoy going out and just finding things and making stuff either in the woods or like traveling and gathering copper ore or iron ore and then taking that and making it into metallic copper or metallic iron. I can go through some of the stuff on the table here. We could start with the copper, for example. So I have some copper ore, one of which, can I see that, please? Thank you. This is a mid 1800s to early 1900s. And you can still find copper veins and things that are in the area. There's mine tailings too, and I went and pick through a few of those, but it's funner to go out and actually like use your geology knowledge and like find stuff and this
Heck
and that.
yeah.
But through the process of prospecting, crushing, refining, I can get metallic copper out of it. As you can see here, these are big hunks. These are heavy. And take those and melt them down, forge them out, shape them, and use them in aspects of my jewelry making or knife making. I can make little copper pins to feed through my knives, or like these ones I didn't make out of. I'll call it native copper, native to the area. These ones I didn't make out of native metals, but I can do the same thing. I can take this, flatten it out, hammer it out, shape it,
Yeah.
have something that a little piece of more to add into my work. Um,
Heck yeah.
yeah. Another thing is me and fellow Makerspace member and shop lead Dustin Swears have been working on some cool stuff. There was a ravine that we found that has immense amounts of clays that are like varying properties, varying colors, reds, blues, yellows, purples. It looks purple in the sun, and it's more gray than purple. But and we have over the last year have been take a breath. I'm talking so much. It's
Hmm.
um over the last year we've gathered and tested a bunch of different clays and materials to try to make a vitrifiable clay body. And we've succeeded. We found two clays that work really well together. There's one that doesn't vitrify enough. Vitrify meaning melts enough to kind of bond and become waterproof. I don't know if that's the exact definition, but um, not waterproof, retain water. So there was one clay that when we fired, it had a lot of mica powder in it, meaning that the mica is very fire resistant. It's used in a lot of like refractory things and stuff like that. Um,
Okay. So what's the intended use of something like this? Like, why would someone go? Why would some? Well, sorry, say the word again.
Vitrified.
Vitrified. Yeah. Why would someone go through the process of trying to make sure it was vitrified?
So if it wasn't vitrified and I wanted to make a mug out of this, I would pour my coffee in there, and the coffee would
It would like soak through
soak through.
the
Yes,
clay,
soak's the right
kind of.
word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Because it's sort of somewhat porous, or like it can
exactly.
absorb
It will
water.
absorb that water, and that water will flow through the cup.
And so, is it an alternative method to like glazing? Because glazing's done for pottery to give it a good surface, or is it a
Yeah. So
vitrified surface?
with the glaze, there's different glazes that you can use for different purposes. And this is when I'm talking about information, this is what I know, which may be right, may be wrong.
Yeah. No, I'm just curious. So, but glaze is an alternative method to this, and you're trying to go about it by mixing something into the clay, so that right when it's fired, it becomes
So
that.
we had two clays that we were working with specifically, one that didn't vitrify and one that over vitrified, meaning it melted a little bit more than it was supposed to.
Okay.
So by combining those two clays, we came up with a workable house body that would vitrify perfectly.
Oh
So
wow.
the one that didn't vitrify, again mixed with the one that did that over vitrified, created a house body that was perfect.
Wow.
Everything on here, this is the color of what we came up with of the two combined.
Okay.
And then everything on here is a decorative slip, which is just other clays that were um, brought to a slip level and then painted on. So these
Do you do that just with water to make a slip?
yeah, you just add water. You saturate it enough to for it to be a liquid consistency or
Cool.
thick liquid consistency. But you end up getting a lot of really cool colors. If you look, I don't know if well you can see this, but on the inside there's like this really cool purple, black, metallic, whatever.
Hold it up to the camera for me once.
Right there.
Perfect. Yeah, that looks sweet.
Wow.
It's super purple.
Yeah, there's a lot of iron in the area, and this specific mix was a clay that was very iron rich.
Cool.
Weren't you refining some of that too? I feel like I had a conversation with someone at the Makerspace talking about pulling iron from clay.
Pulling iron from clay. Oh, okay. So in that same ravine, myself and my friend Wendy had discovered a vein of Makato, which is a blue clay that is extremely sacred to I forget it's not the Sioux, it's like the sub. I forget their exact name. The Native Americans that were in this area. So much so that they named the town Mankato, which is blue skunk. It's a mistranslation of Makato. And that was a really cool experience. We found this blue clay vein and we brought it back to the makerspace and we're kind of goofing around with it. And I posted it on Reddit, I believe, in one of the clay subreddit pages. And somebody got a hold of me. I forget who exactly. Oh no, it was So one of the traditional chieftains of the whole Chunk Nation, and his nephew got a hold of me, and they had been searching for this blue clay, for a long, long time. They had their own, because they use it for like ceremonies and stuff like that. Um, but they had their own deposit somewhere, but there was like a landslide that they couldn't get to it anymore.
Hmm.
And they'd literally spent like 2 weeks walking up and down the Mississippi River, or the sewer, what the river
Yeah,
valleys
they're
in the
looking.
area. They're looking. They're like
Yeah.
physically walking up and down, looking for it. And it was cool because I was able to like take. It's kind of a treacherous hike, so I was able to take the nephew down.
Hmm.
And we both went down and just packed my backpack full of this blue clay and hiked back up. It's- it sucks so much hauling like 80 pounds of clay straight up the side of the ravine. But we got back to the makerspace and we kind of got it all out, and he was just like, "Holy crap! Like, this will last us so long." Because he was asking, he was like, "Excuse me." He's like, "All we need are a couple baggies, like, because it's for ceremonial purposes, and we really don't use that much." And I bring back like 40. I forget the amount, double digits pounds.
Heavy backpack.
Heavy backpack full of whatever. He's like, "Holy shit! Like this will last us years and years and years and years."
That's awesome.
Oh my god! And so, I have to say this because this is hilarious. So he's sitting there. It's myself, him, and Wendy. And when Wendy asks him, she's like, "So what do you do with the clay? Or like, do you like turn it into a paint, or like what do you whatever?"
Mhm.
And he says, "What do you say?" He's like, "Well, we take it and we chunk it up in little pieces, and we like do this, this, and this." And he's talking. I say, "Hey, Clayton." He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Do you whole chunk it up?" He looks at me. And he giggles a little bit, but I'm pretty sure he was like, "Fuck you." But no. But I've been able to supply quite a few people with some of that Makato, which is really cool because like I've shown people when they had the Dakota 38 +2. Is that the number? I always forget the numbers. There was a guy that came in and wanted to see it, and I pulled it out, and he was like, "Whoo," like I thought this stuff was a myth. Like and it's they've told me that it's very, very spiritually powerful. So I've taken a great amount, or had to take a great amount of respect and just kind of like not play with it as much as I should. They're just like, just so you're aware, this is like a very spiritual medicine, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. As far as just like just clay, woo,
Is that what some of that color comes from?
No, I haven't used any of the Makato in my work at all.
Okay.
The Makato, however, we did fire a small pot just to see what it would look like. In glaze firing, it melted, but in bisque firing, it is also highly magnetic. I can take that pot and it will stick to a magnet. I can like take it like that and let go of it.
That's cool.
I believe there's a lot of pyrite in the area, or what is it, marcasite, which is another form of pyrite. And some of that oxidation from iron can cause a lot of really weird colors. The more common ones, yellows, oranges, and reds, and stuff like that. But there is some blue clay in Utah, or blue clays known around the world, that have very antibacterial properties to them. There's usually a fair amount of aluminum and iron oxides, which can fight MRSA and like all this crazy stuff. But back to that iron refining thing, that was another thing I was working on, is trying to take iron ore from the area and smelt it into metallic iron, which is a crazy process. I have a few little pieces here. They're nothing crazy. They're not any special rocks, but they're.
Is this the one where I saw you were grinding gravel to?
Yeah, I made like an industrial coffee grinder kind of for rocks.
Yeah.
Out of a propane tank.
Out of a propane tank and a chain with some knobs on it. I had a pulley wheel inside of it, but it kept getting eaten up because it's smashing rocks.
Wow.
Yeah, that's probably the next big project. I finished that power hammer, and that's a lot of fun. But now I want to make iron from scratch. Like I can find coppers. This is easy. Like it's fun. It's easy. But like this iron smelting is work. It's I have to prepare like 200 pounds of charcoal, and charcoal's not heavy, so I have to prepare a lot of freaking charcoal. And like build up this clay bloomery and process. I'll go out and back into that damn ravine and pull out, 100 pounds of rocks and go smash them up or cook them in the fireplace so they're brittle. Smash them up, separate them magnetically, with a big fishing magnet and like,
No.
and I don't even know if it's gonna work. I could do something wrong and it's all for naught.
Yeah.
What do you want to make with it? Like once you actually get the iron separated?
Maybe a knife. No, I don't know. I really wanted to remake the King Tut's meteorite knife. In his tomb, I think it was King Tut. I don't know. Maybe it's a different big Egyptian king. In his tomb, there was a knife of gold and a knife of iron, right next to each other. And it's really cool looking, but it's just that, and that's the thing is like iron, before iron smelting and that whole process was discovered, iron was more important than gold, was more valuable than gold because the only metallic iron that exists on the earth, apart from some very, very minor deposits or situations where there's a volcano next to a coal, whatever underground next to some iron where it naturally smelts, but it's not a lot. It's just little pieces and rocks and stuff. The only metallic iron that exists is from meteorites. So those knives and stuff were made from meteorites. But otherwise, all of the iron is oxidized, which is it's a compound that is like Fe3O2 or whatever. It's a compound, meaning that it can't just be like I can't take these rocks and melt them and get iron from them. I have to like atomically strip those oxygen molecules away from the iron molecules via reduction inside of the bloomery. But yeah, so that's it's crazy. But if it can be pulled off, it'll be. I put that on my job resume, like
Oh yeah.
if you walk into McDonald's or wherever you're trying to get a job and it says just like, reached iron age on it, like you got the job.
Like, how about you
Reached
reach the cheeseburger age guy?
Cheeseburger age guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just goofy stuff like this. I went into the woods one day and, there's a hemp stalk, some hemp whatevers, and found some bones and glued it all together and painted it with clay and just, I just like making stuff from nothing. That's kind of my thing as far as just like my base. The most enjoyable creativity for me, at least, is just like
Yeah. Well,
nothing.
a couple of things about that is, one with especially some of these really complicated projects, like, are these things possible for you, basically because of the makerspace, or is this something you'd be pursuing without that resource here in town? And like, how does it affect you to make these things? Like, is this like, do you trade these things for other things to make your living, or?
I could say I would still be attempting them. It would be a hell of a lot harder without the makerspace. I'll say this: I probably wouldn't be doing this without the makerspace. As far as like jump starting that want and that craving for creativity. Like now that I've experienced that, I'd find a way, outside of the makerspace. But I forgot what did you ask after that?
Then like, what does it allow you to do? Like, do you take these wares and sell them?
Oh.
Or?
Yeah, I don't. I
Like, I've certainly seen you sell. Some
I've seen.
things
I'll
before.
sell. I sell a lot of stuff. Most of it takes its time to get to the selling stage. My ADHD does not let me finish stuff.
Mhm.
But work on different things in increments. So, like I might be on clay for a month, or working in the clay field or whatever, and be making clay things, and then cycle back to clay in a few more months and finish those clay things that I started. As far as most of my work has a finished product. But like there's kind of like background things that go into it too, such as the copper. So like I might have a knife that has native copper pins or hand whatever, or at some point I might have a made from iron ore knife, and I would definitely advertise it because you're not just gonna sell.
Yeah.
You know, if this was something that I made from fucking rocks, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it on there. You know,
Yeah.
but I think that it's mainly just the enjoyment. It's the serotonin of like
Yeah.
I
You
went out and
made
found
that.
this copper.
Yeah.
I went out and like as far as a living, I don't really sell enough to make a huge whatever off of it. I'll do commissions and stuff. And I live pretty basic, you know.
Sure.
I don't have a huge need for anything too eccentric. I yeah.
Would you like to see this, like, is it a business you're trying to operate? Are you trying to do more in that regard?
See, that's the thing too, is like I want to say yes, but then there's an obligation to do it, or there's like
Yeah. No,
there's
I feel you.
pressure to
Absolutely.
fulfill
Yeah.
and
yeah, there's that, you know, I'll make knives to sell, but I almost don't even want to take commissions or like take things, because then there's a
Yeah.
quota to fill, and then it like becomes a thing, and it's not even a big deal. It's just like the ADHD shaming, where it's like, this would take me 10 minutes to do, but I know I haven't done it, so I don't want to do it because when I think about it, it makes me sad. Because ultimately, yes, you know, if I quit being a bitch, I could probably like start.
Yeah.
we find that a lot with artists, where it's difficult to balance the need to deliver like artistic products
Yeah.
versus
And
just
I
like
think it's a little bit like
the
just
energy for it.
me being a bitch, because like you look at somebody like Dustin and Shannon Swears, where they're just
Mm.
like, they are grinding artists all the way. Like
Yeah.
they work all, you know, they teach classes and stuff to Makerspace, but like they're making their money through that and through their work, you know, through their
Yeah.
commissions, through the this and that. Those guys are crazy. I respect the hell out of those two people. But as for now, I don't know, maybe I just haven't reached a point where it's like, okay, you need to like stop goofing around and start like
Yeah.
putting your
Sure.
effort into a financial whatever. But
Yeah.
You know, don't turn your, like, I would say, like, I hear this so much when people have like a practice that's really, you know, attached to their personal happiness. Like, and
that's
then-
what it is.
Yeah.
Because like I was funky for like a good 2 years around. I mean, everybody's funky in 2020, but
Funky.
funky. And like I'm talking incapacitated, like on the couch, like like your brain can go to so many fucking crazy places, like
Yeah.
it's unreal. And part of bringing me out of that was going back to the makerspace, because I'd done stuff with them before. I kind of went into this funk, and then by going back to the makerspace, you know, along with medication, and that wasn't the only thing, but like have dove headfirst back into creativity and like keeping myself occupied, busy, not distracted. I believe there's, you know,
Yeah.
there's a difference between ignoring your
Yeah.
problems and, you know,
You're
remedying
focused
them.
on something
Yeah,
for
yeah.
a long time when
So
you're
it's like when it
creating
comes
something
down
like
to
this.
it, even if you're ignoring your problems, like if you're happy, or, you know, like if
Yeah.
you're what you experience is your reality, and if it only affects you, then like
Yeah.
but no, I think that's a really big part of it is I haven't stopped. I haven't stopped to look back and, you know, say like, you know, or yeah, it's driven my mental health and my happiness for the last 2-3 years, and that's
awesome.
like it's just I have to do this.
Well, you have to protect that space too, then, you know, with regard to making it a business. You can't do that if it's the thing.
Yeah.
That's, you know,
if that's the wager, if it's
Yeah.
like, well, this thing fixed my happiness, maybe it can fix my finances too.
Well, I
Oops,
can
still have
fix
to
it.
expect of a hobby.
I can relate pretty heavily. I have pretty
Artistic
severe
practice.
ADHD as well, and when I'm not doing anything like creative or have any new project to be excited about, even if it's stuff I like to do, I like totally get in a funk as well, and it is like distractions, I guess you could say, but it is like you said, it's more about just being happy and like trying to make yourself happy. And also I've kind of taken more of that approach to like the new art projects I am working on. Like let's just like try to make sure we're having fun and it's been really successful for me as far as like getting bookings and like doing well in these projects. So I think it's really important, and I think it's also like palpable on the other side. And you don't have to be afraid to be like, well, I only make as many pickaxes as I make a year, so you got to pay me for that whole time I was not making anything else. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep my pickaxe.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, there's never a don't, like, anywhere you see me. I mean, I can't sharpen knives at the wine cafe anymore. But,
That was so funny.
but like, even when I'll go home and, you know, after a long day of working in the makerspace, and I'll sit down and make music, or like I'll sit down and flint nap, or, you know, like, so it's just constant.
Yeah. What do you are there any projects that you've got that's kind of like on the back burner that you're interested in but you haven't quite had the time or energy for? I know you're already doing so much, but like what's something interesting you heard of recently that you're excited about?
The back burner. I'll show you the upstairs to the makerspace sometime.
Yeah.
I have all kinds of stuff that I started and haven't finished. Are you just talking about something that's like,
Either new or like
I think more at something aspirational.
yeah,
Yeah.
aspirational.
Yeah.
Well, I think that this iron thing is kind of, it's not on the back burner, but there's just so much to do with it. Otherwise, oh man, I really want to find gold. I actually found a little bit of these copper rocks. I actually did find a little bit of silver in some of them, and it'd probably be really hard to see.
What does it look like to start looking for a rock like that? I mean, any of them really, you know.
Well,
you
you have to be in the right area. It's that I won't go into the geological.
Yeah, you don't need to go too deep.
I won't go
on
into
it.
the geometry aspect of it, but you have to know, or you have to be in the right area. There's not just going to be copper in the sandstone or whatever.
Yeah.
You have to. This stuff was in. It was like it's not the greenstone belt, but there's specific rocks and like volcanic activity and stuff like that.
Sure. So you examine some geological records.
Yeah,
and
you
kind
have
of
to.
find
You have
out
to
where
do
you
some
should be
research.
looking.
I've also seen Caleb's map app in his phone.
Yeah.
And there are so many pins. So
That's awesome.
I didn't even know the pin feature existed. And then his is just like, if you zoom out far enough, it's probably just all filled in.
The whole Midwest is just cyan blue.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it speaks to the detail of these. You know, you got to really find it where to and a lot of times there's a mine, so you could like locate a mine.
Yeah,
that's in the
and that's
area
a
or
lot of
something.
this. Like I said, this copper stuff was easy because that whole area was very,
Yeah.
very copper rich.
Yeah.
So like finding veins and little pieces here and there.
You mentioned the clay example was just like kind of spontaneous. You just
Yeah,
kinda
we
came
stumbled
across
upon
it.
upon Makato, and then like, God, that ravine is magical. There's like
Yeah.
little swimming holes and waterfalls and stuff. But yeah, you know, you explore. You get a
Yeah.
rough idea. You go out, you look around.
Is it smart to like go to places that specifically you're like, I don't think anyone would go down there kind of thing?
It depends. It's not necessarily based on anyone's previous activity usually. I mean, unless you're doing mischievous things, like if you're growing pot down there, yeah, that's a great method to
Yeah.
do some guerrilla farming. But otherwise, you know, if it's not anything like
'Cause
people aren't looking for
it.
iron
Yeah.
iron ore. People aren't scavengers in the lands looking for iron ore.
Yeah.
And the copper is abundant enough. You know, if there was some gold deposit somewhere that was big enough, people would know about it, or you know, like that kind of falls into that
Sure.
thing. But no, it's just kind of, oh man, I have to return. I have the 1867 final geological report of Minnesota that I have to return to the library. Thank you for reminding me. I had it for like 3 months.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
But even that, like you read through these different counties and kind of like if you kind of know or understand any of that a little bit.
You can also do, I didn't realize this, I also learned from Caleb, you can do like elevation viewings and then if you find a spot that seems promising, you can just look up that spot and like look up info on it too.
What was that?
Interesting.
You tell me about this app. What are you? No.
No, you just told me that you could go to the elevation on Google Maps.
Oh yeah, the Google
And-
Maps has the terrain feature. That's
Yeah,
really cool. So
yeah.
you could see like,
Mm.
you could see or easily see like ravines and dips in land and like cliff sides and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
And those are great spots to go look, like, because you get an exposed.
Yeah. Don't ask me to explain how glacier. I don't remember how glaciers or how ravines. Glaciers.
You get
formed.
access to the rocks in the area.
Yeah,
basically.
I
yeah.
was just about to ask how glaciers work. Damn. I'm just
Don't
kidding.
know. I think it fills. It fills up. Yeah.
No, it's all good.
We're all over the place on this. This is
That's the thing is like.
yeah, there's so
Again,
much.
I know a lot about specific things, but there's very lacking minor like base level details that like in geology and math and
Yeah.
metallurgy.
You've covered the basics of like, all the big crafting things. It's wild to, know so much about
but somebody to be like,
details of a
what's
process.
this or that, which is
Yeah.
like the first day of Geology 101, and I'd be like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Well, there's there's a thing about like a lot of people, you couldn't even build a pencil from scratch if like
if you
had
tried.
to
Like there was a
remake a
YouTube
pencil.
channel where I think a guy he like tried to make a toaster, and he's like, this just like there's no way that it could
a
be
single human
cheaper.
could, but I think you would be an example of someone who probably could make a toaster and or a pencil or something. You know,
That's another thing is
It's
like,
wild.
you goof around enough that you start. Oops, sorry.
Yo,
Getting
you're
close
good.
to the mic. You goof around enough, and you start figuring stuff out. And like, okay, for example, like I worked at the free press for a little bit, and there were some electric motors that I had to clean the brushes on, and this and that. And there were, I made a lap steel a few years ago, and had to wire up the electronics and this and that. So like
I just saw
potentiometers
that on
and wire
your
brushes and this and that.
Instagram.
And
That's
like
cool.
I might find myself working on a speed control for an electric motor or trying to troubleshoot this electric motor. I've never worked on an electric motor before. I have now, but like back then. But like I know what like a potentiometer is from making a guitar. I know what wire brushes are from working on this.
Yeah.
And like the more I'm gonna put this back on so it doesn't.
Be good interest.
The more you goof around, the more you are able to like troubleshoot and like.
Yeah.
I'll fix anything and everything at the makerspace now. Like if the shirt drying unit is broken, I'll go in and like, okay, I goofed around with a little bit of electronics and built a few little pedal things and this and that, and I know enough, just enough to like be able to look around. But you become more valuable as a human being. Like you get separated from that hive mind where it's like you said, one person couldn't build a toaster because there's 20 people that are responsible for one part of that toaster, But if you obtain the knowledge of the whole toaster, then like you're away from that and you're just like I'll work on my car. I don't know shit about cars, but like with
It's
what I mean, like
problem
just
solving
problem
skill.
solving,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
becomes
goof around
elevated.
and find out.
Sometimes, yeah, I
Don't swear.
imagine.
Yeah. People say to me, I learn quickly all the time, and I think it's more of like what you're talking about. It's more like us like the skill of like breaking something down and then problem solving your way back up is like something you can apply to everything.
And then building on those like fundamental skills too, like whether it's I suppose music theory being a good example for a musician could be kind of like or even just like skill, like whatever your instrument is.
Sound
all the
is
way
a
up
really
to,
good
like,
example because like at first you're just like turn the gain up and make sure it's not red, and then push this fader up to make it come out of those speakers. And then now we're at the point where we're like trying to figure out how many amps are in our system and like how circuits work, like it. Yeah, when you really get into something, the whole can get very deep.
There's something to be said though about like goofing around and finding out before actually learning how to do something.
That's how I like to do it.
There was a study. I was listening to some podcast and they were saying how like they took two different controls and they were trying to teach them how to do a math problem, and they gave them the math problem and told them try to figure it out, and then they tried to figure it out, they couldn't, or how to do that math problem, and then they gave them the formula to do it, and they figure it out, and they retain that information a whole lot better than people that were given the formula right away. Like in like a classical educational whatever, where they're like, here's the math problem, here's how to do it, show us how to do it. But like your brain makes, sets in that procedure and then plugs and plays what you've done wrong and what you've goofed up on, and you retain that information so much better when you've goofed around and found out before you even learn how to do it.
I'm a huge believer in that. That's how I like to learn everything. Like, just let me goof around in it and then tell me.
New shirt, goof around and find out.
Goof around and find out.
Yeah, there'll for sure never be a dull moment.
Yeah.
I was this close to making you a mask that was that distorted smiley face but I ran out. It was like 3 a.m. and I'm like, I should go home and go to bed. Maker's face. That's gonna come out.
I'd have worn it too.
Oh, I'll still make it for you. Our next podcast.
I think what's really cool about this is like about the whole foraging then foraging, then blacksmithing is like there's like a whole adventure arc to it. It's like you can go out and look with friends for rocks and like teach them how to identify stuff, and then like there's like all the in between of like, okay, how do I now break this all down to the elements I need them to be, and then there's another part of like, okay, well now I have these raw materials broken down into the basic resources. Now what the heck do I make out of this? And so I think it's really cool that there's like there's a whole adventure arc to it. It's really cool.
I guess kind of the last question I have about the specific things that you've laid out are, what were your like base motivations like before? Like I doubt you like came into like making things and were like, you know what, I'm gonna get a bunch of rocks, I'm gonna break them down. Like, what did your creative journey look like before you like started doing this whole kind of like farm to table kind of like complete circle thing?
Forest to anvil.
Forest to anvil. Keweenaw to... I'm not gonna wait for that. We can be here all day. In 5 minutes I'll have it for you. But I don't really remember post Makerspace, pre Makerspace. Post is now. Pre Makerspace. I'm sure I don't know. I was just smoking pot. Never mind. I would say, okay, so I came to the Makerspace. The first couple things I made were more artsy, sculpture-y things. I did this bee thing. I took a bunch of wood, and
I remember that.
I can maybe send you guys a picture to put on the thing or something. Oh, gosh. And then I think the first thing that kind of went in the modifying / whatever direction, I took a low-level or low-end... it was some kind of guitar. I forget. It was like a $200, $100 guitar from the pawn shop, and I started working on it and modifying it and started making this crazy thing, but it ended up not working out. I don't know where the transition, because this is like, even though it's kind of broad, it's like kind of also like niche, like in this very specific category. When I think I just started off with, I want to make knives. You guys have blacksmithing stuff. I want to make knives.
Cool.
And I think that began with, going to the knife place and buying the knife blade or the steel stock and grinding it out. But even that, you're doing most of the knife making process minus, the actual foraging.
Mm-hmm.
We need a different word.
Foraging and foraging.
Harvesting and
Forest anvil, baby.
Forest anvil.
Yeah.
And I've always loved rocks and stuff. My dad and I would always, go sneak into gravel pits in Wisconsin and go look for agates or whatever and this and that. Go up and down the Mississippi River, hunt here and there. So rocks are great. There's just no end to the colors and shapes and rocks are just, every rock is just a notch on a spectrum of just minerals and crazy stuff. So yeah, I don't know. Blacksmithing, I say, would probably
So it sounds like you got into
it
it a little bit more recently, though. You didn't have like a huge history as a kid of doing art and exploring stuff like this.
No, not really.
Yeah, that's interesting. So like, how long have you been working? Like how you said, like 2020. When did you start kind of going to the makerspace and getting into that stuff?
I think I moved into Mankato about 2017 or so.
Okay.
That was pretty awesome. There was they had that Rib Fest going on,
Hmm.
like the week that we moved here, and Primus
Yeah.
was playing. I'm like,
Oh yeah, I was there.
like we have no money, but we're sneaking in. That was, oh my god. Okay, really quick. So we went to that Primus concert, right? So we went on the bike path that takes on the right side, I think, that goes
Yeah.
past the thing, and we like hopped the fence, and we were inside the tree line waiting for it was just like a war movie or something, really, like guys in carts going around and like, because everybody's wearing that bright yellow shirt. But me and my buddy Jose were sitting in that forest, and we're waiting for the security to kind of do their laps or whatever. And we hear this noise behind us, and this guy walks up. I don't know, stoner looking dude. He's like, "Hey, what's up?" And we're like, "Hey, whatever." And he's like, "Have you guys seen a brown paper bag?" And we're like, "No, what a brown paper bag?" And he looks over and he's like, "Oh, there it is." And like right next to us is just like this rolled up little brown paper bag. And he like grabs it and he's like, "All right, enjoy the show." Like, what was in there? We could have had a great night. Like, how do we miss that?
That's the kind of mineral I want to find.
Yeah. It could be anything. It's a Primus show. It could be like
Yeah,
fucking
literally
adrenochrome or some shit. What did you ask me? Oh, Makerspace 2017.
Cool.
Yeah, I think they were around a year or two before that. And it took me maybe a year or so to actually like go there and check it out, because somebody had told me about it and was like, "Oh, they got pottery and textiles," and I think they were very like lacking in the description, and I was like, "Oh, those are cool things, but like I'm not really about that pottery and textile life." Or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I think I just met Rick at the bar one night. I found out right away that the wine cafe was like the coolest spot in town. Like, fuck the towny bars in the college, or not towny, but like, I don't like college bars and the college scene and old people and stuff like that. But
Old.
well, like the
No, I feel you. I know exactly what you mean.
the hangarounds.
I like it. I like incomplete descriptions. It just makes
The hangarounds. Like even Blue Bricks is a little too close to
You tell him.
that side. Okay, fuck the lighting in Blue Bricks too. The owner, if you're listening.
get a
But
light.
I met Rick at the wine cafe. And he was a really cool dude, and he mentioned that he was part of the whole makerspace thing. So me and my buddy Josiah went and checked it out one day, and we're like, "What the hell? This is so much more than just like ceramics and textiles, and it's like they got everything in there,
Yeah.
And so I started going. I joined up, and the rest is history as far as just like
Cool.
yeah.
What would you say to somebody who hasn't gone to check it out, but thinks they might like it? Like, they heard about a knife making or pottery and they haven't bothered to go
Most
check it out.
people that come in will say, "Oh, I've always heard about this place, but I haven't been here, or I never checked it out." It's very easy to have anything like on your table or palette of options or whatever.
Yeah.
So like if you've heard about it and you haven't checked it out, go over there today and check it out, or maybe a different day.
Right now.
Right now, or even like just go on the website and check out the classes. Just see what we're about. Like,
Yeah, it's a great way
if
to
you're
get
sitting on your
into it.
couch, you don't have to leave your couch. Just go on your phone, go to makerspace.org, and like just scroll around a little while. Go on our Facebook page and look at the cool stuff we have. Not that like it sells itself. Like
Yeah.
once you're there, and granted, not everybody is like a huge creative, but you don't even have to be. Like there's classes that are meant to teach you how to use stuff,
Yeah.
to further your creative whatever, or your making career.
Yeah.
But there's classes that are fun. That's like you're gonna hop on the glass blowing torch and make a little pendant, and you're gonna go home with that.
Yeah.
You can come back and work on other stuff because you now know how to use the torch. But like,
Yeah.
I think another cool thing is if you need a repair but don't have a workshop or a tool, it's a great chance the Makerspace has it.
and that's another thing is a lot of people think that we're just like a group of people that fix people's shit for them, which is fine. We do, and we do take commissions and stuff. Up to each individual person. but it's mostly like 99% mostly a place for people to come either learn or learn new or just work.
My partner and I, JC, had great luck building like stuff for our kitchen renovation projects. We
Sure.
built like cupboard handles and stuff
Yeah,
like
I remember
that.
you guys were in there for
And
a little while.
It was just awesome to have a spot to go where they were used to handling like table saws and sawdust. And
And $50 is
better.
nothing. Like $50 today, that's 2 boxes of screws and a flathead at Menards, versus like those things and every other shop in there. So it's ridiculous. And not everybody has time for it. I get it, but even it's just
it's really awesome that we have the option, that space in the area. I feel really,
and it's been popping up throughout the
there.
country, and it's so such a great idea. And there's it's a lot of fun.
Cool.
It saved my life. I'll say that it saved my life.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, is there any thing else we want to talk about? Otherwise, is there anywhere you want to send people to check out your stuff or your vending or your Instagram or your address? Or
you want to get me to give up my personal address on?
It's up to you. I'm just
Any of
saying
the
whatever
above.
the best way for people to find you.
My door's unlocked all the time. I'm not doing that.
Okay. Yeah.
What if somebody wanted to inquire about one of these items?
Get
you
your
got
own.
here? Love it.
Go harvest your own damn copper. I don't really keep up very well with social media. I'll post stuff on Facebook and Instagram sometimes, but not enough to plug.
So go to the makerspace and say hi to Caleb
Yeah.
and ask him to help you on a machine or something.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm just hanging out. When I get stuff going, I'll let everybody know. I think I
DM
have
me.
a
I'll
Facebook
give you
page.
his address.
Don't put your address. You don't. Do you know where I live?
No.
Okay. I'm really close to Heather Fitzsimmons. If that.
Here, just whisper
you
it
get.
into the mic, and then they won't be able to hear it.
All right.
P. Sherman 42.
Well, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Yeah,
this
it was
has
awesome.
been
Hey,
great
this has been a little dream come true. I've been wanting to come hang out with you guys for a
Heck
while.
yeah.
Heck yeah, we
Well,
love
thanks
having
for
you.
All the
showing
cool
off
people
all
are in
your
Triple
cool
Falls,
stuff.
so
Well, welcome to the exclusive Triple Falls.
do I get a
Club.
jacket like the 5-timers in SNL or whatever, where they get like access to the lounge?
Yeah,
or-
if you come on
Maybe.
4 more times, I'll get you a jacket. Yep.
I'm writing that down.
Okay.
Okay,
But
you
not
better have a
anyone
jacket.
else. I think there's some people who've been on 4 times. You don't actually get a jacket. That's it.
No, it's
Sorry.
5 times though. Have they been on 5 times?
I don't think anyone's been on 5. It'd be Dana if anyone.
We might need
Yeah.
to get
We
some
might need to get
jackets.
a jacket.
Yeah, I'm just curious why you don't think Dana deserves a jacket.
I think she deserves a jacket.
Well, okay. Starting from here on out, 5-time club gets a jacket.
Yep,
Gets a jacket.
on Caleb.
If you have 5 more guests,
Locally
Caleb gets a
harvested
jacket.
denim.
Locally harvested denim.
All right, I'm getting out of here.